there's anyone around. It's better if there isn't. I'm gonna do a reading. I'm exhausted and tired, but I just wanted to do a little reading. Maybe the other channel better. Yeah, this one here looks better, I think, for reading. So what I wanted to do was, I have so much look writing everywhere. Like I have literal notebooks that I don't know what to read from anymore, because one of them is one writing, another one is another. They're all, you can see them like close up there. They're all handwritten. So but I was gonna do this is from one of my favorite novels, the historical fiction novel that I've been so I started writing it so many years ago. You do not want to know how long ago. It's in the 18th century France and the period of Enlightenment. This part, like, I'm just reading randomly. This part is about there are a lot of characters. This character is Antoine Claude de Bureau. He's aiming to become a well-renowned philosopher, and he's very much into science and philosophy, but he's also a very virtuoso in music. So he's a harpsichordist. At that time, that was one of the main instruments. I'm just going to read into it, so as I always do. "Return, de Bureau," called out one of the company. Oh, I know where this is from. "Be not so fastidious. Whatever is the matter with you?" "Leave him be," laughed another. He is the what? He is the set of good and... Oh, he is the sort of good and boring lad that never is much fun. So there's this party, I remember now. I wrote this years ago. There's this party set at a house of... If I remember correctly, because I haven't read this myself in ages, I don't know if it's at the house of the famous musician that this guy is going to visit, or of a certain lady. But they're having a party, think like very aristocratic. And this guy is a struggling musician. He works in a... He's great. He's a virtuoso, but he works currently in a little shop carving violins. So he's a violin maker at the moment where this starts. Antoine struggled with his disdain of those present and hesitated on whether to return to them. "I think," continued another, "he believes himself to be far above us all. Perhaps he fancies himself to be the secret son of some noble, or perhaps he is the illegitimate cast-off son of one." A great outburst of laughter followed, and Antoine now knew he desired nothing more but to be out of the tavern, not to return to it again. Not even here. Oh, no, this is the tavern part. I'm sorry. Wait a minute, then I'm looking at the wrong chapter. Where's the... I wanted the part where he goes to... Oh, it's right here. Sorry, I'm a page earlier. Well, that is a relief. Does he got into the carriage? See, speaking of carriages today. Okay, going to meet Rameau himself, laughed Picard. No, you blah, blah, blah. Quite the palais after the apartment of Mademoiselle de Lambert, and there, after a certain Jacques Guillaume Morin, and present the instrumentum. Ah, okay, this is what I was looking for. Sorry, I had the wrong page. So he's looking to go take an instrument that he he helped make in where he was working. So he sent an instrument to this very famous musician called Jean. It's an actual Rameau. He's an actual real life historical figure. My fictional character, Antoine, has to take this instrument to him. A violin, I think it was. Well, that is a relief, sighed Antoine as he got into the carriage. It is indeed, smiled Picard, seeing his apprentice off, and glad to have such a beauteous youth represent him. This guy, he's very good looking. The carriage arrived at 9:30 before the sumptuous palace, dauntingly bright and astoundingly lavishing. Antoine, holding tightly onto the exquisite case of an even finer violin, and as he trepidly walked to the guarded entrance, could not in the least imagine how it had ever occurred in his mind to have even conceived the most improbable notion in the world to have aught to do at all with fortune and fame. Here was he, the artless, simple son of a music teacher, incapable of finding the courage to enter that great abode, and having only the relief, he thought, and not misfortune, of not needing to meet one of the most admired men of his knowledge. He believed all this was a final lesson for him to truly understand his worth, and he felt it with true humility. He was resolved never again to set his mind to great things, for this close in actually seeing a part of it, he felt incapable of the simplest duty to deliver an instrument. Where was the Antoine of 2 years ago who had induced the daughter of a noble to run into the knights with him? But the mischief all began when they were kids, so they didn't do anything improper. They just ran off into the night. But the mischief all began when he, for the first time in his life, entered that manor of a lord, and how insignificant even that seemed in comparison to this. He was kicked out of there, by the way. At least, there were no admonishments or reproofs to fear here, unless perhaps the violin would not live up to its expectations. So all he has to do right here is drop off a violin. Antoine hesitated as a servant in an ivory wig. This is the 18th century. As a servant in an ivory wig, where am I? And impeccably radiant attire came to meet him at the door. He at length stated his business, was all horror when the servant examined him thoroughly and requested him to name who it was who had demanded a violin at this time of the night. But once we heard the name of Madame de Lambert, he laughed, saying it was now all to be understood, and conducted Antoine inside. This interior was even more terrible than the exterior, for at each step upon the spotless rich carpet of the sharpest colors he had ever seen, and that led up many staircases, Antoine was certain his dirt, quote unquote, would be recalled for many generations to come, and at each glance of the sparkling walls he was certain there were eyes and ears behind them, and that the magnitude of the space would swallow him up. They reached another noble door, for he believed even they possessed titles. Like even the doors possessed titles. Think of that. At last, and the duty of one servant was given over to the other, as Antoine was again led to newer quarters of grandeur, and finally asked to remain in a smaller room, though no less imposing than the rest, while the servant took him to the door to the right and entered a noisy area of laughter and talking. What kind of talking? I'd add another adjective here, like rambunctious talking, or it's not here. The silent suspense was unbearable, and he wished himself in his own shabby, comfortable room when after some minutes a young man of 19, and not only of flashy significance, but of a most cheerful disposition, came out to greet him. "Ah, a good evening to you, sir. Yes, I am Guillaume. The violin. What comfort to have it here at last." He laughed, shaking Antoine's hand too cordially for comfort. "You see, we all have many instruments to spare, but Rameau could simply not do without the finest, and he had not brought his spare to the Palais, and it is all a very dreadful thing for him to be without the finest on the very eve before the concert." So Jean-Philippe Rameau, one of my favorite musicians, by the way, harpsichordist, he's ready to give a concert, but he left his violin behind. Antoine felt unequal to deserve any explanation, and was all astonishment to be spoken to, as though he were any man to be spoken to at all. Like, he's in shock. This guy's like addressing me like I'm his best buddy, and look at me, I'm a nobody. So Antoine's very doesn't know what to say. Now, let me hear the tone of this fine specimen before I send you off to rest. I'm certain you what now? You desire one at this house, and have the good fortune to recommend it to Rameau. Antoine forced a smile as he handed the care to Guillaume. No, I am in no humor to play just now. Go on and pluck a little piece of your own choice." This demand was not only wholly unexpected, it numbed every muscle Antoine had a recollection of possessing. He plays the violin too. He's, as I said, virtuoso. "Do you not play?" he chuckled, the nice guy. He stuttered, no, a violin maker and not play. That did sound rather awkward. Only a little, sir, but I could not. I am only good at harpsichord, and not here, not now. Now he looked plain foolish. "Why ever not? Oh, come on, lad, nothing to fear. I wish to hear it sound. I only wish to hear it sound. I am not here to judge your talent. Choose the easiest piece in the world, and it will suffice." These words rather, or at least as much as they could, tranquilized him. And he was remembering he was here on duty, and certainly of a very expensive duty, he could find no other excuse not to oblige than request. I'm not reading myself. With trembling hands, Antoine opened the lid and lifted the truly loveliest piece his hands could ever behold to play upon. He caressed the silvery metals with the tips of his fingers before he placed the instrument under his chin and took the bow into his hand. Now came the hardest part, to think of a melody. Antoine was amazed at the impossibility of remembering a single one, and believed, wrong page, it would have been easier to repeat Vergil's Aeneid by heart than to play the simplest piece he could not possibly remember. Jacques Guillaume was all smile as Antoine, in desperation and embarrassment, lifted his bow to play anything, but that frozen smile slowly faded, as 3 or 4 incoherent and absolutely dissonant notes were wrung out of the glistening chords. Antoine had not the slightest idea what he was playing, and soon came to realize he was indeed playing nothing at all. Get more comfortable here. No, I apologize. Allow me to begin again. And he gathered all his fortitude, remembered Rameau, and not even considering that the most difficult piece, not at all written for violin but for harpsichord, and only altered to this rendition by his own fancy on some of his bored evenings at home, he closed his eyes, envisioned Chanteline, that's one of the main characters he's really in love with from childhood, and produced a truly masterful version of La Rapelle des Oiseaux. That's a really nice song. Great silence followed. By Jove! Exclaimed Guillaume at last, and finally finding the power to applaud the performance. Is the violin suitable? Inquired Antoine, now daring to open his eyes because he closed them all the way. The violin, by Jove, the violin is flawless, but you, my lad, are a treasure beyond belief. Antoine laughed and was certain he had fallen into delirium. But that supposition was only approved when a door, not to his right, from behind, where there continued the loud merriment, but to his left, softly opened, and the exquisitely tall, willowy figure of a woman emerged. Antoine was hallucinating. No such woman could exist, no such form or visage could his soaring... What? I forgot what I wrote here. Acknowledged and composed as a frozen lake? What? There stood. Could his soaring mind possibly conjure... Okay, I see it. Look at the writing. Let me show you the writing you can see here. Like I'm trying to decipher those letters here. It's pretty funny. It's like all over the place sometimes, my writing. Because I read. So yeah. No such woman, form or visage, could his soaring mind possibly conjure. There stood before his very eyes the sovereign of femininity and power, of superiority and fascination, in a dark lilac robe of exotic satin, flowing freely over the waif-like endless form, as flowed the loose, rich waves of her long, coffee-shaded hair with amber hues over her marked shoulders down to her waist. Her ornaments were this extravagant necklace of diamonds paired with matching bracelet, and her crown was her sun-kissed complexion. So she had like a darker complexion, dark hair. It was not a beautiful face. No, it was strikingly ravishing. Let perfect lines be put aside, for her eyes, deeply set, were slightly wide apart and slender. Her nose, she had these her nose small but thick and strong, her dark eyebrows profoundly decided, her lips only were all eminence, they were, I can't read this. Well, they had red glaze upon them, but all these lineaments put together formed that beauty Antoine could not have believed to exist. So he's got his childhood love, and now he's got this. Mademoiselle Sophia, exclaimed Guillaume, coloring, as he had not expected to see her in her night robe or see her at all. There is such a noise, said her remarkably deep voice that revealed not a hint of discomposure, as it implied a trifle accent. My headache, monsieur, has become worse, and I cannot sleep. Here she calmly placed the tips of her finger to her temple, thus suggesting there was indeed some sort of anxiety. I beg of your ladyship, cried Guillaume, bowing almost to his very knees, to pardon this little interference, but Rameau has just ordered a violin, and it was to be heard, and this lad played but one little... What? She inquired, seeing from but a careless half-glance, showing what is this word? From a careless half-glance to only take notice of the visitor at that very second. No, I am referring to the party. She pointed majestically to the door. My room is located above it, and they are very loud. Your ladyship, I will do all in my power to silence them, but I fear that power is not quite mine in having. Perhaps if I ring for a servant and ask him to relocate you to another room. Yes. Oh, hi. Hi, Bionic. Yes, I wrote that. Years ago, so I'm just kind of revisiting. So I've never finished these writings. A long time ago. I have another book that I'm writing that's more recent. That's like a fantasy book. But I'm gonna log soon. Thank you. Oh, you're lurking there, McDemel. Thanks. I'm glad it's a bedtime story and puts you to sleep. You don't need anything else now. Just listen to me and you'll be sleeping off in no time. Yeah, I've been writing and singing forever, so those two are my like and researching too. I love researching. Thank you so much. Aw, thank you. I've never finished this. It's just endless. Like there's so many characters. There's a philosopher. There's a like a mad scientist type guy. There's this half like a noble girl that's impoverished that this guy is nuts about. But then now there's this woman and there's like you got Voltaire in there and you got the whole Enlightenment. So it just keeps going. Like it's pages and pages and it's nowhere near finished. I'd have to rewrite the whole thing from scratch. It's just like endless. The ideas are good, but it's just very, very long. Thank you. Perhaps if I rung for the servant and ask him to relocate you to another room? Yes, that will do, I thank you. You are very kind. Good evening. No more was said, seen, or shown, and she left the door as placidly as she had entered it. Oh, good. Everyone's gonna be sleeping. Just not me. I'm never gonna sleep anymore. I'm gonna stay at zombie. I'm fine in zombie mode. No, this week, honestly, I think I'm gonna try to get a better schedule, because... Well, laughed the flustered Guillaume. I suppose our business here is done then, lad. Oh, there's a fun part with the... There's a fun part. Nice. There's a fun part with the kind of mad unquote scientist. He's really something. Like imagine 18th century scientist, an alchemist rather. I loved writing him, but that's on another page and it's too late to start into that. The lad could not quite recollect what that business had been or where he was, so now he's lost. Yes, boy, Mademoiselle Sophia von Bromberg, one of our many guests, but the only of its finest, is a sight, he sighed. But if you only turned your eyes away from the door, you might be so obliging as to accept my invitation to a small harpsichord performance that Rameau is to give on the 5th of April at the Hôtel de Luxembourg. I should rather like to introduce you to him, and if, as you say, your play on the harpsichord is even finer than that on the violin, I am certain Rameau would be pleased to hear you. So this guy's getting a chance here. He's getting a chance to be heard by Jean-Philippe Rameau. That guy is like he's like a hard rock or heavy metal of the 18th centuries. You guys should really hear him. Wait, I have an example actually. I love Rameau, was like my favorite. If I can find one of his songs, you'll know what I mean. Wake everybody up. Everybody's falling asleep. Watch me. Be mean and wake everybody up. Here's my music. L'Egyptienne. Is this it? Yeah, it's... Wait. Oh, I don't have the titles, do I? Anybody know Rameau? Oh, thank you. Open, let's see. Is this it? It might be loud, though. I don't know. You want ASMR? You get... Is this it? I don't know what I'm opening right now. I think it should be. It takes a while. That's how long it takes for a bloody file to open while I'm streaming. Yeah, that's Rameau. There's some of his songs. Wow, they're so good. Like, he's crazy. There's so he's got like works that some of them are like, what? How does somebody even play so fast?